Hello, you bloody Anglophonians. Well, when we take a look back at history, you might notice that the European history is a bit longer than the history, for example, of the modern American society, and that there is a lot to tell about of the special European history. Yeah, and there was one point when two friends were working on new ideas, and they were shifting things around a bit, and they came up with a hero who's not like the normal hero. He's rather small, and he has a friend who's rather huge. Huge, you know. They were not so much the typical heroes, but they were Celtic warriors. Of whom do I talk? Well, of course, of Asterix the Gaul, and this is the story we're looking at today. At the end of the 1950s, at the suggestion of its advertising manager François Cloteau, the French publisher Dargaud wanted to publish its own youth magazine, which was to be called Pilote. For this purpose, a small group of creative forces was brought together, which included the comic artist Albert Uderzo and the writer René Goscinny. These two were given the task of inventing a story with a title character who absolutely had to be French. In August 1959, Albert Uderzo and René Goscinny got together and thought about what to base their story on. In a kind of brainstorming session, René begins. Well, just tell me the different historical epochs of our country. Albert replies, okay, first of all, there is the Stone Age. Stone Age. Nothing. No inspiration, no idea. Uderzo continues. And then there are the Gauls. Wait a minute. What was that? The Gauls. The Celtic ancestors of the French. That could be the answer. A humorous comic series about the Gauls. Who was famous then? Oh yes, Vercingetorix, the legendary Gallic king who had to admit defeat to Gaius Julius Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar, governor and later emperor of Rome, who conquered all of Gaul. Stop, no. All of Gaul? No. Let's write a story about resistance fighters. 50 BC, a small village of indomitable Gauls resisted the Roman occupation. And as with Vercingetorix, the names of the characters should have names that ended in X, IX. The Romans get names that end in US, US. Goscinny and Uderzo play with their first ideas and laugh at each other at the same time. Names come up like Panoramix, which is Getafix in English, or Assurance-Turix, which is Vitalstatics in English, and so on. The name of the main hero has to start with A because of the alphabetical order, and this is how the name Asterix from Asterisk was born. But how can a small Gallic village resist the Romans? Albert Uderzo explains it. Every Gallic village has a druid, and the druid of this village knows the secret of a magic potion that makes you invincible. The plot for the first adventure, which is supposed to have the appropriate title Asterix the Gaul, is then fixed. Asterix should get a friend at his side, Obelix. And as it comes for looks, the two shouldn't be typical heroes. Asterix is rather small, his friend Obelix is rather overweight. And while the magic potion was to play an essential role in the defense against the Romans, Uderzo and Goscinny wanted to avoid clumsy stories in which problems were solved only with the fist. Asterix the Gaul begins by explaining the historical situation to the reader. The year is 50 BC, and with Caesar's victory over Vercingetorix, all of Gaul is subdued. In a scene in which Vercingetorix throws down the weapon in front of Caesar, the humorous angle at which the story is told can already be seen. Vercingetorix does not simply surrender and lay his weapons at Caesar's feet. No, he throws them with a swing on Caesar's feet. Then we learn about the small village in an area of Gaul called Aremorica, which is resisting even though it is surrounded by Roman camps. We get to know Asterix, Obelix and the druid Getafix and learn about the magic potion, the secret recipe of which is only allowed to go from druid's mouth to another druid's ear. The Romans, however, are not very pleased because their patrols are always beaten up. So the commander of one of the Roman camps decides to send a spy to the Gallic village to find out the secret of the invincibility of the Gauls. A Roman legionnaire is disguised as a Gaul and put in chains. In fact, Asterix and Obelix fall for it first, free the supposed prisoner and bring him to their village. The spy sees the unusual village life, some of which doesn't appear in later stories. In this story, the other villagers are no more than decorative accessories. Later they are worked out into characters of their own, and so for example, you can then no longer see the village blacksmith working his metal with his bare fists. In fact, Asterix reveals the secret of the magic potion to the Roman spy and even lets him take a sip. The spy returns to the Roman camp and reports what he has found out. For the Romans it is clear the druid must be kidnapped. They managed that too, but Getafix is very uncooperative. Meanwhile, Asterix finds out what happened. He sneaks into the Roman camp and hears the commander discussing his plans with his subordinate. He doesn't just want to find out the recipe for the magic potion. When he has it, he wants to become invincible, go against Rome and overthrow Caesar. Asterix then sneaks into the tent in which the druid is being held prisoner and works out a plan with him how to trick the Romans and finally escape. What the pilot episode is for a television series Asterix the Gaul is for the comic series about Asterix itself. It is a straightforward story intended to introduce the reader to the world of Asterix. We get to know the most important characters and the circumstances under which they live. We find out about the magic potion, but we already see the story here too, the problem of which is solved not with violence, but with prudence. Asterix and Getafix claim to brew the magic potion for the Romans, but in truth they are driving the Romans crazy with their games. You have to add that Asterix is of course fiction, but that Goscinny and Uderzo made it a point to have a certain authenticity. The colored robes of the Gauls, the armor of the Roman soldiers, the houses, the camp, all this corresponds to the level of knowledge that science has about the time. In later adventures, anachronisms should play a role from time to time, as the stories are also metaphors for the present day. But the setting should remain as realistic as possible. The story became a great success. And after being printed in episodes in Pilot, it soon appeared as a standalone comic book and laid the foundation for decades of success. So there you have it. And once more I have to say, this was not the end, it was just the beginning. And we also come back to him. So until next time, see you soon.